Hi all, I have another interesting game to show you from the YourNextMove Blitz. Vladimir Kramnik playing against Magnus Carlsen. E4, we have E5. Now we go with bishop c4 here instead of the more standard royal pairs. And this actually goes into the two knights to start off with. We have d3. Now a very unusual move. Usually in this position, the top moves in a live book, bishop e7, bishop c5. So this move, I mean, moving the bishop is very popular. h6, stopping a potential pin later. d5, that's an interesting move here, or d6. But we have, in fact, queen e7. The move queen e7 here. Only 6 games in live book. And there's an intriguing thing about this move, a hidden secret which I didn't really know about myself. It looks like a position we should all know from primary school chess. White played knight c3, and you might think, well, hold on a sec. Why can't White play knight g5? What is Black doing about f7? And you might think, well, isn't the answer knight d8? Yeah. You might think just defend with knight d8. In fact, if knight d8, White's doing quite well. Say here, threatening potentially knight d5s, and there is congestion in Black's position, yeah. But actually, Black, after knight g5, this didn't happen in the game, has the move h6, where White's best might be just to retreat the knight back. And after d6, this is okay for Black. Black can consider fianchettoing the bishop, for example. Okay, so the point though is that I wanted to make is knight g5. We have actually after that if this was played, h6 is actually interesting here. This is actually you assume that White would want to take on f7, but here there's a move which gives Black a significant advantage. I wonder if you can spot it. Because remember, the queen has walked out of the potential fork. Well, the knight would have been forking the queen there, the rook and the queen. But here, Black has rook h7 with the idea of g5 to win 2 pieces for the rook. The knight's stranded there. And for me personally, I wasn't really aware of this variation that much. It wasn't in my conscious. I don't know about you guys, but it looks like some sort of very obscure trap to fall into if you thought you could just go for that pawn. Now bishop takes f7 is no better, king d8, and that's leaving pieces hanging after bishop retreats. We can just take the knight. So yeah, that's just interesting to consider that actually Black has the strange looking rook h7 here, which is a big advantage. So that was sidestepped anyway with knight c3. Very sensible move, knight c3. But this move now, actually, with knight c3, this bishop is actually a target. Another property of queen e7, as well as avoiding this fork. I know this is all like very powerful stuff with queen e7. It's holding e5, which means this knight can actually be used to try and grab the bishop. So there's a behind the scenes feature that we've already demonstrated, and now there's in the main game scene that this queen e7 is supporting knight a5 now, because that pawn is not hanging. So Black is getting the light square bishop. White just castled there and doesn't even have to take it immediately. Doesn't take it immediately. He just leaves it to be taken with c6. Now White plays a4 with the potential threat in inverted commas of bishop a2, but it's snapped off now. So Black's collected that light square bishop, and it's back to business now. After d6, b3, as though bishop a3 might be a concern. Queen c7, the bishop is actually going to be just playing to e7 now. Job done. Black has basically collected the bishop pair from White, taking out that light square bishop. So very, very interesting, novel approach to the opening in this Blitz game. Very, very interesting. And after queen d3 here, it looks as though white enjoys surely at least some frontal pressure on the d file. We have h6. Now perhaps best was to drop the bishop back to go later to a3, because then white can put more pressure maybe on that d6 pawn. But he didn't do that. He played bishop h4, and we see now after bishop e6, rook fd8, the move queen e3 is played, and now the forcing. There is actually a forcing move available in this position already. It wasn't played here. b6 was played, threatening just to snap this pawn off. That was taken, and the rooks stare at each other. That's ignored by white with h3. But now the forcing move g5 is played, and it's a blitz game, so perhaps with greater analysis white would just drop the bishop back and accept he's got a hemmed in bishop. He didn't want to accept this. Actually, this position though is quite ideal for black, with the bishop pair and the knight on f4, or knight f4 as Ben Feingold has mentioned. This is fine. Even there might even be, technically black's got a slight advantage here, but white didn't. He refused that position. He actually took care, trying to create maybe some complications. But Magnus took first on a1. Yeah, he took first on a1. Then he took on g5. We have queen takes g5 check. If bishop takes, this is no real problem for black. Perhaps a move like king g7 is simple and strong, with the idea of rook g8 later. White's took with the queen, and now probably the strongest move in the position, h6. King h7 protects h6. There'd be a little bit more hassle with a move like this, but immediately check and then f6 drops. That's no good. So, but h7 is the best spot, it seems. h8, there might be some hassle with f4 and the f file brewing. But yeah, here, I mean, the problem is any rook g8, white can throw in this check on h6. But by playing king h7, the h6 square is denied, and rook g8 is a potential threat now. So queen drops back, rook g8 anyway, and there's a potential threat now of knight g4 hitting the queen and discovering an attack on the bishop. So this is already pretty bad position for white. A piece down basically. He's just succeeded. This is not Kramnik's best ever blitz game in my view. He succeeded in giving black a ready-made attack potentially as well, not just a piece down. f4, okay, encouraging knight g4, but does Magnus have to play that to try and exploit the queen and bishop position? It was bypassed actually, like Predator with knight h5. If knight g4, that is a little bit of a trap that white has set with f4, because white could have then taken and then played queen h3. Yeah, the queen's swinging across to close out this bishop, and then play g3, and white will be back in the game. But like Predator, Magnus sidesteps that little trap, knight h5, and white is in a world of pain here. White just sacked another piece. It's absolutely dire, this position. It's totally lost. If he moves his bishop, knight takes f4. It's the disaster, total disaster. It's already totally lost basically. Now white is 2 pieces down. I know it's just a blitz game, but I think these games are fascinating. Rook g5 holding the knight. Now the queen is crawling on white's weakened dart squares everywhere. Look at all these pawns on knight squares, and the adjacent dart square weaknesses have crept in. Knight e2, knight g3, and if the knight takes, we actually have queen d4 check, winning the rook. So we have knight c3, but now check anyway, and now queen e5, and white is overloaded. He can't juggle these issues that is thrown at him. He tries to move away from the discovered check, but guess what Magnus plays now, which is absolutely crushing. If I give you 5 seconds, what would you play here with black? Okay, queen takes c3, yeah, drag and drop tactic, hitting the rook. If the game ended here, if queen takes c3, knight e2 check, so black would be 3 pieces up. As I say, it's not Vladimir Kramnik's greatest ever Blitz game that he's played. But what a novel opening, though, from Magnus. This Queen E7 idea, I had no idea about H6 and Rook H7. I don't know about you guys, if you want to say, if you knew about that sort of little trap with, you know, it's like a Venus flytrap in the opening with Rook H7. You know, that knight is just stranded in the variations there. But it did support winning White's light square bishop, the Queen E7. So this is a very, very interesting approach. This Queen E7 has demonstrated in this Blitz game. So I thought for that reason, it's an interesting game to check out. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.